On behalf of the Scott Hosier Veterans Roundtable, I'd like to welcome you to the first program of our 12th season. If you would, please take a moment to turn off any cell phones, pagers, leaf blowers, log splitters, anything else that might disturb your neighbor during the program. For those of you who are today celebrating Rosh Hashanah, I would like to wish you a Shana Tova. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, and Shana Tova means Happy New Year. Please be sure to pick up a copy of our season brochure, the yellow brochure out in the lobby. We've got a great season planned for everyone this season, and we're doing a few things a little differently this year, so stay tuned for that. If during our program you or someone around you experiences a medical or other emergency, we have on location members of the American Red Cross to assist you. Please don't hesitate to ask them for help. They're easy to spot. They're wearing the Red Cross vests. I think there's a Red Cross out in the audience somewhere, or look for the Red Cross flag. And on behalf of the Roundtable, I'd like to thank our Red Cross volunteers for everything they do for the Roundtable and for the community. So thank you, American Red Cross volunteers. I want to remind you that the Scott Hosier Veterans Roundtable is sponsoring the Transfer of Memory exhibit at the History Center of Olmsted County now through October 30th. The Transfer of Memory exhibit features the stories and photographs of survivors of the Holocaust living in Minnesota, and including in that exhibit is Jerry Valfer, whose story you will hear tonight. And I know you're thinking, oh, the Holocaust, that's so depressing, so dreary, and certainly it is, but there is a great element of hope and survival in that exhibit. So I do urge you to go see that at the History Center. If you've never taken me up on any other suggestion for things to do and see in the Rochester area, please go out to the History Center and see the Transfer of Memory exhibit now through October 30th. Also, be sure to come back here on October 12th for our program, The Typist. One of the speakers that evening is David Klassen, who produced a film about a man named Larry Tillemans. Larry was a sergeant in the U.S. Third Army and served as a clerk typist during the Nuremberg trials. And as you probably know, the Nuremberg trials were an international tribunal which tried 24 high-level Nazis and executed 12 of them for their crimes against humanity. Both veteran Larry Tillemans and film producer David Klassen will be speaking that evening, and we'll be showing a screening of the short film, The Typist, and that's 7 p.m. here at the church on October 12th. As you've heard me say before, there's really three groups of people who make it possible for the Scott Hosier Veterans Roundtable to accomplish its mission. First, of course, is our veterans, and if they weren't willing to come and tell their stories to us, we wouldn't have a roundtable. And second is you, the audience, and if you weren't willing to take time out of your busy day to come listen to those stories, we wouldn't have a roundtable. The third group of people are the volunteers that make it possible, and they do so voluntarily, and some of them are veterans, some of us are not, but we all do it as a labor of love to show our appreciation and support for our veterans. And at this time, I'd like to introduce you to two new members of our officers, if they're here in the auditorium. Tammy and Andrew? Oh, good, you brought the helmet, that's good. Good thinking, thank you. Tammy Thayer is in charge of our DVD sales, and this is actually, I think, the second season that she's been doing that. Tammy is proficient in American Sign Language, and she works with hearing impaired students. She's a mother of 3 children. She comes from a family with a long history of military service. She's a descendant of Colonel Sylvanus Thayer, who is known as the father of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Her father was a career officer in the United States Air Force, and Tammy has written a book about her grandfather who served as a doctor in the U.S. Army during World War II. And by the way, it's an excellent book. It's won several literary awards. And if you don't have a copy, see Tammy after the program, and she'll get you a copy. And thank you, Tammy, for your service to the Roundtable. I'd also like to introduce Andrew Cooney. Andrew is starting the season as the treasurer of the Scott Hosier Veterans Roundtable. He's a graduate of Mayo High School, is that correct? And he served 6 years in the U.S. Navy as a Seabee. He and his wife Haley have 2 children and one on the way. Andrew works as a correctional officer, and he is currently, actually in October, he starts service with the U.S. Naval Reserve as a Seabee, which I think makes him the first ever officer of the Roundtable to be in active military service. So we thank you, Andrew, for your service both to the military and to the Roundtable. So Tammy, I understand there's a connection between you and Andrew. Could you tell the audience?
Well, I'm very proud to say he's my son.
So as we've done a couple of times last season, we have a book raffle. We're giving away a copy of the book Tammy has written about her grandfather's service. And if you were fortunate enough to fill out one of these, maybe you'll get selected. Okay, we'll let Amy. Impartial.
James Harmon.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I would like to turn our program over to our co-founder, vice president, and program chairman, Mr. Tom Hosier.
Exciting and fun to start the new program in the new year. So I'm so glad that you could come tonight. We have a program that we have called the Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, and there will be 3 people interviewed in one way or another. The first one, the interview was actually done last Thursday at the History Center, and it was done because this is during the Jewish holiday, and it was thought that it would be more appropriate to do it last week and then be able to show it tonight. So that will be the first thing that we'll do, and then after that I have 2 people that I will interview live, and then all of the interviewees will be available for any questions or comments after the program is done. So I'd like to introduce you to Jerry Valfer. And as you will see in the video, he was a very young man when Hitler took control in 1933, and that's essentially where our video that you'll see will begin, and then we'll have a chance to talk to you a little bit and applaud you afterwards. Okay.
All right, that sounds good. Good evening to you.
And I believe that you have a son here that came all the way from Texas?
From Texas, yeah.
Wow. Well, welcome, David. We're so glad that you could be here tonight. Thanks. Jerry, where did you grow up in Germany?
In Mannheim.
Mannheim. And what's that near?
Pardon me?
What near, is that near Berlin or?
No, that's
Frankfurt?
It's south of Frankfurt. It's on 50 kilometers away from the French border.
Oh, okay. And is it a big community?
Very big. It's about 300,000 population, somewhere around that area.
So then we could say about 3 times the size of Rochester.
Yeah, it's famous for Mercedes-Benz. That's where it started, and Siemens. When I was that old, Siemens started. They built an 8-story building, and that was a skyscraper then.
Oh my.
That was in the 20s I'm talking about.
Well, I don't want to go as far back as the 20s, but I think most people will know that Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933. You're not a real old person at that time, but I'd like to just kind of reflect a little bit of how it was to be a Jewish person prior to Hitler's coming to power. And so I'm thinking of, as you were a young lad, We're talking about is depression. We're talking about money isn't worth anything. Jobs are hard to find. Is this still, for a young kid that doesn't have a lot of responsibilities, is this still kind of a good time? Do you remember that as being kind of a fun time?
In the early part, it wasn't bad because really Hitler, it started after 33 when we felt that we are different than the rest of the country. You know, they started putting the Jewish people didn't make a good picture of them. They didn't start prosecuting in 33, but it didn't take very long. What the Germans did is the Nazis, I wouldn't say Germans because they're different today than they were then. But the attitude of the German people changed right away because they got indoctrinated from the Nazis and they had to do whatever they were told to do. And that's what he called dictatorship, and we see it all over the world.
I want to try to establish a baseline and see how this is going to change. You, a Jewish person, goes to school with non-Jewish people?
Pardon me?
You, a Jewish person, goes to school with people who are not Jewish?
Right.
You're all together, integrated together?
Yeah.
You're friends, you play?
There was no problem there.
No problems at all.
Whatsoever, no.
And going back to the idea of parents, dad's trying to get a job, we're trying to eat, we're trying to make the best of this situation.
Right.
And so, as tough as that may be, there is no real discrimination that you remember during that time.
No, absolutely not.
But after Hitler comes to power, it changes.
Yeah.
And how did it change?
Well, you know, the kids got indoctrinated, especially in the school. They were told not to be together with Jewish kids, not to play with them, and sooner or later they were told not to even talk to us anymore. That happens gradually. You know.
Do you think this change of attitude happened in the school, or do you think it happened with what some of us would think of the Hitler Youth? It was something done outside of school that carried over into the school?
Into the school, absolutely. That's what happened. They had to go to the Hitler Jugend, right? Which means all the young kids had to be together, and they were told to hate Jews. So naturally, when you're a kid, whatever you learn, you pick up and you do whatever you've been told. And that's how it really started.
So your memory as this starts, it's in the schools, correct?
Correct.
And at some point, you're no longer in these schools. You are now going to a lesser school.
Yes, in 1930, the end of 1936, 37, they eliminated us from going to school. So they started a Jewish school, which was not much of a school because we had no books and the teachers were not teachers. They were regular Jewish people that tried to do their best, but we really had no education anymore. That was after my 6th grade. That was the end of my education.
As you think of that time, were there other, you say the students and the German people were certainly hateful, a problem. Was there a propaganda being done over the radio or with newspapers to help them be swayed that they should think of Jewish people as bad people?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. It came from the Nazi regime. They told their teachers and told everybody else how to handle us. And We felt it very well. We couldn't go sports anymore. We couldn't go to any kind of festivity, no place anymore. We got deprived of everything. And not only that, my parents, my father lost his job. He couldn't work anymore. And the only thing really that saved us from keep on going is because my father was 100% war invalid from the First World War.
So other Jewish fathers or Jewish families perhaps had little or no income at all.
Exactly.
And were really in dire
really
straits
bad, yeah,
just to live.
They took everything away. And, you know, if the world would have looked at us at that time and said, we're going to take you, let's take some people over what they do today, that wasn't the case. No, everybody turned their face to the other way around. And I think that's exactly the opposite what happens today.
So Jerry, Hitler's not in power, things aren't too bad, we're all in this together. And it erodes to a very bad situation. Why do you think that happened? Why did people turn against the Jews?
Because they were told to do it.
But why do you think? Did you ever think back when you were younger, why are they doing this to us? We didn't do anything.
Well, I tell you what, the mentality of the Germans are like that. They always needed a leader. Even so, Germans are pretty bright people. They're cultured, they got everything else. But when it comes to politics, they always need somebody to lead them. And I think that was part of the problems which we had to suffer for.
So they're led by a madman, a crazy man, but there's this blind following. Is that how you kind of react
exactly,
to what is going on?
I just couldn't put it in words. Sorry about that.
All right, so what's going to happen, Jerry? I mean, you're talking 1936, 37, and you're realizing this is really getting serious. What's going to happen?
We really didn't know. We knew things getting tough because I had a brother, and my parents made sure he got out of it. He was old enough. He was 13 then when he got out, and he got into Palestine. So my parents knew right away things are not going to go the right way. Myself, I wasn't old enough to understand everything, only what I felt, what they're doing to me by depriving me of anything, any good things in life. What happened is, when you're young and you lose your freedom, you lost everything.
So you talked about your brother, and your parents are going to find a way for him to leave.
Exactly.
And he's going to go to Palestine.
He went to Palestine.
Why don't all of you go to Palestine?
Because we couldn't, we didn't have the money.
Okay, so money is an
Yeah,
issue.
because that's the reason for people got killed, because they couldn't buy themselves out. Only the people that have money, they could buy themselves out, really. And no country really was interested in having us.
So money is an issue.
Including the United States, by the way.
But if we had enough money to get to a neighboring nation, we were not welcome. Jewish people were not welcome. Correct?
That's exactly right. Let me tell you something about that. You know, the Danish people, it's a small country. And that's the only country that was occupied by the Germans that saved all the Jews.
All of the Jewish population in Denmark,
Yeah,
they were
they
saved.
got them out to
They
Sweden,
got 'em
and
out.
we were not too happy. 500 of us got in the camp, in the concentration camp, but we all got back except 50, which were old people. So there must, we all have to go sometimes, sooner or later.
All right, so we'd like to get out, but we can't. We'd like to get out, like we Jewish people would like to get out, but we can't.
That's
And your
right,
parents found a way for your brother to get
to get out there,
Palestine.
right.
I don't want to make this too emotional and tough, but he's going to leave, you may never see him again.
Pardon me?
He's going to leave, you may never
I'll see him again. No, I probably won't.
So there is that thought.
Yeah, he's 93 years old.
Well, as it turns out, you did see him again many, many times, but there is that thought at that time, when he leaves to go to Palestine, we're not talking about going next door, he's gone.
That's right.
He's gone. All right, now, your parents have found a way for you also to leave,
Right,
to go to Palestine.
exactly.
And the date in which you are going to be able to leave is what?
That's September the 1st, 39, which was the beginning of the war.
Which was the beginning of the war, and the doors and the gates are shut.
Shut, yeah. We were supposed to leave from Trieste to Palestine.
Now, you and how many other people were together that might be able to go?
Oh, we probably were about 150 to 200.
200?
In that particular camp.
So I'm thinking that, were you in some sort of a commune or a protected area before you're going to be?
Right here behind you, just like a farm. That's where we were. We were.
So that's where you are, waiting for your turn, and you think your turn is this September 1st.
Right.
And as you are in this kind of a protected area, life is pretty good.
There was nothing wrong with that, no.
Nothing wrong with that. Now the war starts, and do you think we'll never get out of here? It's